Hello, my friend, and welcome to the Travel Gluten-free podcast, where you can listen in on how to lead a gluten-free lifestyle with more fun and ease. All right, my friend, there really isn't a better way to learn about America's heritage than by going to the national park. From April 20th to April 28th is National Park Week. The National Park Service and the National Park Foundation invites everyone to celebrate America's treasured places during National Park Week. I always love going to national parks. They're so much fun. Tons of activities to do. They're always one of my favorite places to travel. I've never gone to a national park and have been disappointed. It doesn't matter if they're big or small, national park system is going to wow you every time. In Virginia, and I went with the Spanish Nomad, we hit some of the historic national parks out in Virginia, such as Jamestown Settlement, and they were a blast. We learned so much about history, and we also learned about some history items that we were taught wrong in school, such as the Pilgrims at Plymouth Rock were not the first people to land in America from Europe. It was actually the people in Jamestown were the first people to land and settle in America from Europe. So that was a little fun fact that both of us were taught wrong in our schools in different countries.
Welcome to the Travel Gluten-free podcast, where you can listen in on how to lead a gluten-free lifestyle with more fun and ease. Travel gluten-free is like having a best friend by your side to give you the most up-to-date gluten-free traveler information. Let Travel Gluten-free be your number one source for tips, tricks, and advice you can use to safely navigate your next gluten-free travel adventure. Enjoy food, enjoy travel, and enjoy life. And now, here's your show host, Illiquity.
In this episode, I'm going to give you the 411 on national parks, activities to do, when to go, and how to navigate the park you choose to visit. I'm also going to take you on a brief tour of the National Park Service website and tell you about the National Park Foundation. So let's dive in, and we're going to chat about the National Park Service first. I'm not going to bore you with a huge amount of history, but I do want to give you some basics and background about the heritage of the national park system. It wasn't always a system. It was enacted on March 1st, 1872, and Congress established Yellowstone National Park in the territories of Montana and Wyoming. And they established it for the benefit and enjoyment of the people and put it under exclusive control of the Secretary of the Interior. So the founding of Yellowstone Park did begin the national park movement. And now we have over 1,200 national parks in our nation, which is pretty incredible. I always see a lot of people coming from Europe to our parks. And I know why now, after I've traveled through Europe a bit, is because there's many European countries have parks, but they don't have a national park system like we do in America. And Woodrow Wilson actually signed the act creating the National Park Service. A new federal bureau in the Department of the Interior was responsible for protecting the 35 national parks and monuments and anything that was to be established. So before 1916, all the parks were national parks, but they weren't part of a system. They were kind of on their own with how they managed it. So every park was managed completely differently. Woodrow Wilson put them all in a system, and then they started getting managed and they started all having park rangers. This act that President Woodrow Wilson signed for the National Park Service said that the service established should promote and regulate the use of federal areas known as national parks, monuments, and reservations, and to conform to the fundamental purpose of the parks, which is to conserve the scenery and the natural and historic objects and the wildlife in the park and to provide for the enjoyment of people for generations. And then in 1933, they transferred 56 national monuments and military sites from the Forest Service and the War Department to the National Park Service. So the National Park Service isn't just parks. It also consists of national monuments and national historical places as well. So what can you do in a national park? What do you want to do? Find out about local geographic features, or maybe you want to learn about the history of our country's government or the history of the local area, or maybe you want to learn about the ecosystem of the Everglades. It might sound overwhelming. If you do want to go to a national park, what you want to do is you definitely want to start at the National Park Service website at nps.gov. That site is really great for planning. So when you get to the nps.gov site, you'll see they're celebrating National Park Week. If you're going on the site during National Park Week, which is April 20th to the 28th, they have several things underneath, which says this month's National Park Getaway, Reach for the Stars, because they have programs at night, Healthy Parks, Healthy People, and a bunch of other stuff under there. If you want to find a park, all you have to do is when you land on the National Park Service page, there's a little banner and it says find a park by state. So I'm going to click on Utah, several beautiful national parks in Utah. And when I click on Utah, a map comes up and it tells me about the parks. So, and you can click on individual parks. So the first park that comes up, we actually have a lot more. Because they have historical sites and we've got a ton in Utah. So on the right, it tells you by the numbers for each state. So Utah has 13 national parks and almost 15 million visitors. Over $1 billion economic benefit from national park tourism. And then it goes on and on to tell you about numbers. So national parks are a big draw in Utah for sure. And there's a few in the southern part of Utah and a few in the north, and there's not a lot in the middle. You can see all of the national parks, monuments, and lands that are in the state. So I'm going to click on Arches. And when I click on Arches, it tells me if I want to get their newsletter, and it says it's a Red Rock Wonderland. Now, what you can do is you can plan your visit. It talks about each page for the park, talks about eating and sleeping, things to do, trip ideas, if you can camp there or not, accessibility and warnings if anything is not being able to be used. They have calendars, places to go, and there's lots of really great information. They have photos of the park, and they also have a map of the park. There's so much information on here, but you can look on here and see what kind of hikes they have, what kind of for things to do. They have auto touring, backpacking, biking, canyoneering, commercial tours, hiking. I can't even fit them all on my screen. Horseback riding, photography, ranger-led programs, rock climbing, and stargazing. So there's so many things to do in a park. It's not just going to hike or look at or to take pictures. There's tons of activities you can do that are scheduled throughout the day. And you will definitely never see a bored child at a park, because one of the awesome things that my kids love to do at the parks, and every national park has these, it's called a ranger-led program. They have general tours for anybody that wants to go. So for Arches, there's a short interactive program that's 15 minutes. There's an evening program that's an hour long. There's the Fiery Furnace hike, which I heard is amazing. And there's also special events like stargazing. Some programs you have to make a reservation for. If you do, you can do that on the website. About the Junior Ranger program, it is really cool. So what they do for the Junior Ranger program is each national park has a little activity book, and they have it for different age levels. And then when you go in, you can ask for that activity book. When you get the activity book, the kids have certain things they have to find out at the park, and they find those things out. And then once they're finished the book, they get this cute little badge that says, I'm a Junior Ranger, a little certificate. And you as the parent can take pictures of your kid with the ranger when they get their badge. Fill it out on your own. They're not very hard. They're pretty easy. And kids love doing those. They're really fun activities for kids to do. And another website you definitely want to check out is the National Park Foundation. That's at nationalparks.org, and all these links will be in the website. It is a foundation that supports the national parks. But they also have really great information on here about claiming your mountain. So if you want to claim your mountain, hike to a mountain, they talk about National Park Week, off the beaten track, discover lesser known parks, which is really cool. So if you want to go to those parks that aren't so crowded, that's a great way to do it. Gear for park lovers, and the park experience, share your park. So there's lots of really great, and they have a blog on here as well. And they talk about different experiences at different parks. Obviously you can donate to them as well. And they talk about the foundation, their leadership team, and how you can connect through the National Park Foundation. So definitely check out the National Park Foundation. All right, my friends, we're going to take a short break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk about why you should get an annual pass for a park, a national park, what to expect when you get to a park, and what you should take with you to every park. Hey, gluten-free friends, it's Liquidy. We know that traveling gluten-free can be hard, but you know what? It doesn't have to be impossible. You can still travel and be independent have fun, and be in control of your life. Travel the way you want to, even with celiac disease. I know because I travel extensively several months out of the year with celiac disease. If you want to get started on learning more about how to travel gluten-free, grab my free ebook, 10 Tips for Traveling Gluten-Free. In my ebook, you're going to find the basics of traveling gluten-free, from the questions you need to ask when dining out to air travel and cruise travel advice. You're going to find my top tips that I've learned from my expertise. Get your free ebook today by visiting my newly revamped website, www.travelglutenfreepodcast.com. Go to the bottom of the welcome page where you're going to see the beautiful Caribbean boat picture. Click there and sign up today. Receive your free ebook, which is going to be dropped directly into your inbox. Remember, go to www.travelglutenfreepodcast.com. Go to the bottom of the welcome page and get your free ebook and find out my top tips for traveling safely when you're gluten-free. All right, let's jump back into the show. I'm going to talk to you about why you should get an annual pass. So an annual park pass is $80, and that might seem like a lot, except that an annual park pass covers everyone in your car, and you may not know that. And it covers everyone in your car for a year. So it's really a great deal because usually it costs between $15 and $25 for a carload of people to get into a park. So especially if you're coming to Utah for a few days and you want to see the park, just get an annual park pass because they're good all over the United States. You can go to any national park, historic monument, or site in the United States with that park pass for $80 a year, which is super inexpensive. And if you're a senior, and they have another discount as well for military, you can get it for even less than $80 a year. But $80 is a super great deal. I always have a park pass. The only thing is it's not chipped or anything. So if you do lose it, they will not replace it. You'll have to buy a new one. Even if you do have to buy a new one, $160 for a whole family to go to multiple national parks and places and learn history and geology and do some really fun outdoor activities is such a great deal. So definitely get an annual pass. Even if you go to 4 parks a year, it's totally worth it. What to expect at a park. So when you come to a national park, you're going to pull up and you're going to see the little kind of cabin looking thing that the national park rangers are in, and they ask you for your annual park pass, which you have to give them with your ID, or if you're just paying for a single day. So you pay as soon as you go in, and all of the national parks have a visitor center. Definitely check out the visitor center first with your group of people you're going with, your family, your friends. Grab a map. Or actually, they give you a map when you come in through the entrance. So look at your map. They usually have a movie. So I would definitely check out the movie. Or you might want to save the movie for the way back as well, because especially in Utah, you're going to get really hot. So, and the movies are air conditioned. So if you need to warm up or cool down, you might want to do that at lunch or on your way back out of the park. Just make sure you know what time the last movie is running so you don't miss it. So there's a movie, there's usually exhibits. So definitely check out the exhibits and familiarize yourself with the map. And if you want to get some quick highlights in, because you're not going to stay there long, or if you want to just get some information, wait in line and ask a ranger. The rangers are so knowledgeable. You can walk in up to the counter and tell them, look, we have a family. We just want to do like 2 easy hikes today. What do you suggest? Or I love doing backcountry hikes. What do you suggest? What are some things I could get permits for? So a big range of ideas. Anything that you'd like to do, they always have a suggestion. They're very super knowledgeable. So definitely ask a ranger at the counter for suggestions on what to do at the park. Tell them what you like, and they always have suggestions. And then they can circle it on your map and show you where to go and what to do. Definitely do that before you go in the park. I like to watch the movie before I go into the park too, because it gives me a little bit of context of what I'm looking at. Definitely check that out. Some parks have numbered places where you can stop and do your own self-guided tour. Those are really fun. I've done those at a few parks. So if you can do that, definitely do the self-guided tours, especially if you're in a car, because you can get out as many of them as you want and stay as long as you want. Or if you just want to stay there for a couple minutes, get some pictures and hop back in the car, you can do that too. Parks are usually have one big loop around or one way in and one way out. So it's really easy to stop and see all the hikes and scenery. You don't even have to hike if you come to a park. If you'd like to, they have a lot of pullouts where you can just pull your car over and take pictures. If you're in Utah parks during the summer, it's really hard to get in those pullouts because the parks are super crowded unless you go really early in the morning or after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Definitely keep that in mind. Find out what to do, ask a ranger, check out the movie, look at the exhibits. What do you want to pack when you go to a park? Because you may not know what's there. When you go to a park, I can tell you from being celiac, they're not going to have a lot of gluten-free choices if they have any. So you definitely want to pack snacks and a lunch for whoever is gluten intolerant or has special dietary needs, because they don't have a lot of food choices at parks, and they usually don't have ones that have dietary restrictions on them. So definitely pack a lunch and snacks. If you're going anywhere that's warm, like Utah, or Utah is also dry, so even if you come in the fall, it's going to be very, very dry. You definitely want to pack a Camelback. A Camelback is one of those little backpacks that you put a water bladder in, and one for each person, so that you know you have enough water when you go on the trail. So make sure everybody has a backpack with a water bladder in it. It doesn't have to be a Camelback. Camelback's just a brand name. You can go to a store like Walmart and get an inexpensive one for $30. They're really great because if you get a bigger backpack, you can put your lunch and your snacks in it for each person and just pack them every day before you go out. It's also really convenient to do that too, because then everybody has their water and everybody has their snacks already packed in. You can refill them because national parks at the visitor center and at other places throughout the park will have water fountains. And so you can just refill your water as you go along. That way, everybody has their own food and everybody has their own water and everybody carries their own stuff. So it gives mom and dad a break so you don't have to carry everything. It's really a convenient way to go when you're traveling, even in a road trip, but especially at national parks. So I would definitely pack food if you have food allergies or you're celiac, and snack, definitely a Camelback with some water. You can also put a small box in the back of your car with some different drinks that are okay if they get heated or cooled. I like iced tea, so definitely pack those as well. You definitely want some good walking or hiking shoes. I've seen people go to parks in flats and heels. You definitely don't want flats and heels. Definitely sweat wicking material. Check the weather. And if you're in Utah, dress in layers. As soon as the sun goes down, the temperature will drop 20 to 25 degrees, especially in the summertime, because when the sun is out in Utah, it's really hot. If you get in a shaded area, it cools down extremely fast. And if you're coming to Utah, it doesn't matter what time of year it is, summer, fall, winter, spring, always bring sunscreen, very high altitude. And even if it's cold, you can get really, really bad sunburn. So I've seen skiers get really bad sunburn on their face because they think, oh, it's cold, I won't get sunburn. That is absolutely not true. Radiation does not care what the temperature is outside. So always bring sunscreen and always wear it on your face and your arms at any part that's exposed in Utah. You can easily get sunburn in Utah. So those are my suggestions for what to pack when you go to a park. And definitely sunglasses if you're coming to Utah too, because the sun is really bright. So that's my basic 411 on parks. Definitely check out the nps.gov and check out the National Parks Foundation site. You can get tons of information about specific parks. And if you have any questions about Utah parks, definitely get a hold of me on my contact form on my website at travelglutenfreepodcast.com. I will totally help you with any questions you have on if you're coming to visit a Utah park, because I have been to all of them. They're all beautiful. So my friends, I hope this has been super informative and helped you give you a little idea of how to navigate the park system. Make sure you also check the national park to see if you need a reservation to get into the park, because post-pandemic, there has been more reservation systems that have stayed in place. So definitely make sure months ahead of time if you need one of those reservations to get into the park that you're looking at, especially the Utah parks, because a lot of them now have reservations to get in. All right, my friends, remember to enjoy food, enjoy travel, and enjoy life. This is Aliquity signing off for this episode, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Travel Gluten-Free Podcast is a production of Travel Gluten-Free, LLC. Looking for a great way to connect with over 2,000 consumers per month? Contact Aliquity for information on sponsorship levels to boost your business. Subscribe today so you won't miss a single episode of Travel Gluten-Free. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.